All right, let's circle back to the conversation that looks at what exactly is going on within the SAPS. We speak to Dr. Lennit Max, a former Western Cape Police Commissioner, as well as Andy Mashaile, a former Interpol Ambassador. A very good evening to you both, and thank you so much for your time. I'll start with you, Mr. Mashaile. I mean, we're hearing from General Shadrack Sibiya, for example, the Chief of Staff as well of Minister Mkhulu, saying that they're fearing for their lives. And then there is what is coming out in the Madlanga Commission as well as in the ad hoc committee. And a lot is being said about what either side is accused of having done here. But one wonders, given what we are hearing, is this an all-out war unfolding in the upper echelons of the SAPS?
Bongiwe, good evening to you and to your viewers and my brother Lennit. I expected this not today, but sooner than the end of this week. When you listened to Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's final day, he said, in one of the lines of the submission, he spoke to the DPP at KZN, and the DPP indicated that there will be arrests very soon. And this morning I was speaking to your colleague somewhere in Cape Town, 786. I predicted that it's either number one, the minister is going to be arrested, number two, General Sibiya. And by this afternoon, we saw that rate. And yes, a lot is still going to come out. Given the data set that I have in front of me, the horses are bolting in different directions. That would be the horses of General Mkhwanazi and the horses of General Sibiya. And what that means is going in divergent directions, meaning at the center of the pulley is the situation that has brought us to a standstill, to the effect that we will see arrests and we will see prosecutions, we will see people appearing in court. Now, here's the question, or here's the rider. What happens now with the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee now that people will be arrested and we have seen the seizure? So this is one of the things that throw a spanner in the works of the legitimacy and integrity of the two processes running side by side.
Dr. Max, for you, is this an all-out war? And if it is, what impact is it having, for example, on the morale within the SAPS as well as crime-fighting efforts?
I don't know whether it's an all-out war, but there's definitely a war, and between the top management. You know, according to me, the top management of the police is the crisis, and it cannot go on like it as we are experiencing at the moment. This divisions in the police ultimately have a negative effect on the members of the South African Police Service. It also diverts the police from the direction to focus on criminal elements in our country and to ensure the safety of the citizens. On the other hand, the trust deficit between community and the police have been affected here. In 2021, the Human Science Research Council survey indicated that the trust in the police was at an all-time low of 27%. In 2024, last year, survey of the same institution indicates that the trust in the police went down to 22%. And that was even before the Mkhwanazi press conference on the 6th of July. And you can imagine that that trust deficit is worse. It is much lower at this point in time. What is a concern is that colleagues who work together are fearing for their lives in the hands of the same colleagues. If you listen to the Sibiya press conference, he was very clear. He said that evidence which they need to state his case is some of them is on those gadgets which they took.
Yeah.
And as well as in Kabinda as well. Sibiya is very confident. He said, no, I want my case to be heard. I want my opportunity to be at the ad hoc committee as well as Madlanga committee. And And Kabinde is saying the same. He said, we are ready. But he says that his evidence, which he wants to use,
Yeah.
are actually on his gadgets, and they
So,
fear that it can be destroyed.
so
But
pardon me.
what is most concerning,
Yeah.
what is most concerning is the fear of Sabia, a senior deputy police officer in South Africa. He feared that the police will come 3 o'clock in the morning and then bring along a weapon and killed him and said that he was reaching for a weapon to shoot them. Now, my question is that the practice in the police? And is he aware that these practices happen? And if so, it must come forward. They must come forward.
And
So, if a fellow police officer fears for his life about the actions of his colleagues, what about the ordinary public in South Africa?
And that's exactly the question, Dr. Max, because, Mr. Mashaile, that was going to be the very question, because a lot of alarm bells were raised when he started to say that they mustn't come at 3 o'clock in the morning and then say that I was actually having a gun. What does he know that we don't?
Very interesting. I think when a lion is cornered or when a tiger is cornered and wounded, it sometimes reacts irrationally. Am I saying that that's irrational? No. I am saying that tiger knows that it's going to be further ahead. And I would, in that instance, Bongiwe, advise, if I was his advisor, I would say instead of coming around at 3 a.m. for me, I will drive to Johannesburg Central, Pretoria Central, or Cape Town Central, so that you don't have to come to my house. I will present myself there. Your questions are very valid, and the questions that my brother Lennit is raising are very valid. What do police officers, what does this Deputy National Police Commissioner know about the modus operandi of other guys who do these things? And if yes, these things happen, then we need to know about these things. And I'm sure the scope will broaden of the commission. If you remember, Bungiwe, I said we will need more time to get into the depth, the third level, fourth level, fifth level of this specific matter.
So when you then look at that, Mr. Mashaile, because it really boggles the mind. If he is at the top and he is a lieutenant general, he's a deputy national police commissioner for crime detection, and he is saying that he fears for his life at the hands of his colleagues, he alleges. What about us ordinary South Africans there?
We must be very, very afraid. I am sure you and I and Lennit can listen to the allegations of the PKTT. We have heard that the PKTT was rogue, was reckless, and many of those things. So part of the strategy of the two camps that are fighting is to appeal for public emotion, both on the side of General Ntankam Kwanaze and General Sibia, appealing to the emotions of the public to an extent that I am a victim, and please rush out to give me the necessary support. And it says about you and I, Bongiwe, when we are hunted down by the police for whatever reasons, we need to be afraid of our own life. These are things that happened before the dawn of freedom and democracy in our country. You knew that if you were wanted by the SB and by many others, the chances are that you would not see the light of day like the Stanzabu purpose of the world. I'm just making an example here. And some of these police officers come from that era. And I'm afraid to say maybe they know what we don't know.
Mr. Mashaile, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for talking to us, because I know you have an interview with Likwala Kwala FM in just a moment. But let me wrap this conversation with you, Dr. Max, because one of the big things right here is that, yes, we keep hearing about the Madlanga Commission's recommendations, for example, that they are not binding, and the president, of course, will then have to apply his mind. And then we're now seeing what Parliament is currently doing. But one would say that as much as we are looking into the intricacies and what is currently taking place within the SAPS, the president himself is also right now under scrutiny as to how does he begin to act following all of this.
Yes, of course. The president is in a case 22. On the one hand, Mkunazi is stating that, and the national commissioner, that the president praised these members for the effectiveness and the work they have done. And on the other hand, the minister, according to Makunazi, alleges that the president authorized him to close down the unit. So at the end of the day, the president have to come and explain whether he did give the instruction and on what basis. Because the letter of the minister does not indicate the reasons for closing down. And if it is indeed so that the president was very impressed with the success achieved by the PKTT, it should be answered. Why was it closed? So the only inferences is the allegations of Makunazi that there's an ulterior motive for that. But on the other hand, I just want to say, we have a democracy, as my colleague actually mentioned, and the first line of protection of our democracy and our human rights in South Africa is the South African Police Service. And the South African Police Service is the primary entry point to the criminal justice system. And if things goes wrong at the SAPS, then the whole criminal justice system is going to be affected. And I believe that this Madlanga Commission, as well as the ad hoc committee investigation of Parliament, will be the turning point of the South African police in South Africa. We don't have the luxury of time to correct the mistakes in the SAPS. And I think that the president must be very serious to do whatever is legally possible to correct things which is wrong in the SAPS.
You speak about the luxury of time. Is it time for the president to convene an urgent meeting with members of his security cluster, given what is currently taking place? Because if you're going to have a Madlanga Commission, for example, one would think that that's a process that, we can wait to see to finish, and then the ad hoc committee as well also be allowed its space. But now if we're seeing parallel processes of even some of the press conferences that we've seen that are alleging that, some are being harassed who are supposed to be witnesses in this particular, in these two platforms as well. One wonders, though, if, the wheels have come off and the president possibly needs an urgent meeting with his security cluster, possibly.
Of course, I totally agree with it. Because I thought we are going to wait for those two processes, like the Madlanga Commission, as well as the ad hoc committee, to finalize and make their recommendations. But there's a third action now, and there are people like Nkabinde and Sabia who are being accused of some sort of underhandedness, claim that the evidence that they need to put their case at those two legitimate platforms are being seized. So something needs to be done. Something needs to stop in between and afford those two platforms created by government and Parliament to finalize and make the recommendations. But in the meantime, action must be taken to secure that service delivery is not being neglected in South Africa about the South African Police Service.
Dr. Max, appreciate your time this evening. As you say, something needs to be done, because one wonders what impact is this having on the ground, especially when it comes to the regular, police officers who need to carry out their duties. What happens now as they watch what is currently going on? Appreciate your time this evening, Dr. Lennit Max, former Western Cape Police Commissioner, and Andy Mashaile, earlier on joining us, a former Interpol Ambassador.